Hello and welcome to Weapon History, where I tell you the history behind popular weapons in video games. Today, we're slapping the MP5. Designed by H&K, or Heckler & Koch, this weapon was created in 1964 and fires the standard 9x19mm parabellum round, which is NATO's standard issue. The weapon itself was inspired by the G3, also created by H&K, which fires a much larger .308 round, and due to the recoil of it, they found that the MP5 was much more manageable with this, as well as reducing the jamming issues of the G3. In addition, the MP5 has numerous variations with varying stock options, from retractable stocks to even no stocks. But if stocks aren't your interest, then the weapon is able to fire many different rounds, from the 10mm, the 22 LR, and the 40 short and weak, Smith & Wesson. This weapon became infamous among counter-terrorists in 1980s London when the Iranian embassy had 6 terrorists come in and take 26 residents of the embassy hostage. The dense population of London, with many news stations capturing the events, saw dozens of British SAS special forces carrying these weapons. During this event, the SAS eventually breached the embassy, eliminating 5 out of the 6 terrorists, capturing the remaining 1, and saving all but 1 hostage, who was executed by one of the terrorists, prompting the breaching. This event would go on to be known and made public as Operation Nimrod. This mission gave the MP5 great advertising for both H&K and SAS, and giving it proper status in counter-terrorist units, where it is often found to this very day. For those familiar with this weapon from video games, you may be familiar that when a mag is empty, it is very common that the operator will tend to slap the top of the weapon. This occurs on the cocking lever, as, after putting in a fresh mag into the receiver, doing so primes the bolt and the first round to be properly fired. While it may seem blunt and improper, H&K actually promotes this to ensure that the bolt is properly cycled and that a round is ready to be fired. Now, while this weapon has appeared across hundreds of video games, like Ready or Not, Max Payne, some of the Far Cry games, it is often synonymous with the Rainbow Six series of games, which, in its most recent run of Rainbow Six Siege, 3 variations of the MP5 have been added into the game, with the MP5, the MP5 SD, and the MP5K, the latter appearing on an actual SAS character in-game by the name of Mute, who is one of my favorite characters. One small detail in the most recent Call of Duty, being Black Ops 6, their variation of the MP5, known as the C9, has one small detail that I really appreciate that Treyarch put in. Right under the receiver of the gun, above where you would insert a fresh mag, they actually have the correct type of ammo engraved into the side of the previously mentioned 9x19 parabellum placed on the left side of this weapon. Also, this is likely going to be the best part of the video to introduce this point where there is actually no weapon specifically referred to as the PDW, as the term PDW is actually an acronym standing for Personal Defense Weapon. This typically applies to a certain kind of weapon firing a round under 8mm. And while the MP5 does have variations that technically classify as PDWs, these are often used either for selling to civilians or for much more smaller uses to armed forces. However, if someone goes ahead and tells you that the MP5 as a whole is a PDW, or that something like the MP7, P90, or some other SMG is a PDW, or that there even is a weapon called the PDW, you can simply use your superior intellect and tell them they are wrong and proceed to show them this video, because, I am just a constant source of all the information in the universe. Now, out of all the weapons I've spoken about over the course of weapon history so far, the 2 weapons that I have fired that I have talked about are both the AK-47 and the MP5. And in my time with this weapon, I've fired it in both single, 3-round burst, and in full auto. The weapon itself, even when fired in full auto, with the 30 rounds of 9mm hitting its target, depending on what the material is, can often leave a very satisfying ding. Needless to say, the MP5, ever since I was first introduced to it, has remained one of my favorite weapons, as I still love using it in video games to this day. Thank you for watching.